So somebody who used to be like on a cannabis website, like just kicked a chair and got all violent with me, and now he's leaving for some reason. And he's like making threats against me, I don't know why. So yeah, he like totally busted this old chair that's like not even worth anything anyway. If you don't know, I work in a wood shop, and today at work, somebody I work with who used to have a cannabis website and showed me, basically like told me I was twisted to think that hemp can solve the world's problems. And I told him I got math on my website that hemp can replace fossil fuels, and he seems skeptical and doesn't believe it, to do any research of what I'm talking about. So he actually said I'm twisted to think that hemp can solve the world's problems, even though it actually can solve a lot of the world's problems. So why would somebody do that? So somebody at work today bullied me and literally broke a chair, like kicked it, and like he's into like martial arts and stuff like that. So there's been a lot of bullies at work, like so skeptical about hemp replacing fossil fuels that they find a need to like get violent and angry with me. And I'm just trying to talk peacefully. So if somebody actually cared if cannabis could be cheaper than meat, they wouldn't be like telling me I'm twisted to think that hemp could solve the world's problems. They would actually watch my documentary Overpriced and realize that, hey, hemp can solve a lot of the world's problems. Who are we kidding to hold back progress and like not have cannabis plants heal the environment? It seems that there's a socialist agenda to suppress cannabis from being cheaper than meat. So bullies have been trying to like intimidate me to leave for many years. So yeah, there's a lot of bullies in Canada completely ignoring the documentary Overpriced, and people are trying to discredit the work I'm doing. There is, without any doubt, a disinformation campaign against me. I mean, people are spreading intentional lies to try and get people to think that cannabis won't solve any problems in the world, when it actually solves a lot of problems. Like replacing fossil fuels is a big one. That in itself is a huge factor of it. So I have math on my website, science that proves that we can replace fossil fuels with hemp. And yet there's people delusional enough to like get violent and aggressive with me. Isn't that messed up? There's people that bullied me at work. Actually, it's been happening for years. People have been bullying me and not wanting me to discuss information that I'm talking about in my videos. And yet people are pushing all sorts of lies and myths that I prove wrong in my videos. So there's like a bunch of bullies like trying to create a bunch of problems and sabotage the truth movement. And I'm honestly trying to do something to share the truth. And you can see others are giving the meat and oil industry an advantage. So there's a bunch of bullies polluting the planet with fossil fuels and supporting the meat industry that also pollutes the planet and doesn't have plants to breathe in CO2 like you got with cannabis. So, like, there's actually people against my right and other people's rights to breathe easier. And, like, that's messed up. That's really messed up. Like, people have the nerve to judge people who smoke weed. Okay, I'll judge those people. Those people are evil. I mean, Hitler thought he was doing good starting breast cancer research and ignoring how cannabis could heal sick people. So, like, that's really messed up. I don't think you realize the level of, like, how messed up that is. Like, Jesus Christ. Clearly, there have been a lot of bullies using intimidation against me to try and, like, intimidate me to not talk about the truth. And people are promoting lies I prove wrong. So it's like, people are trying to destroy my future and other people's futures. So like, obviously I'm going to resist the corruption and tell the truth. That's what any honest, good person would do. And often I hear people try and tell me, "Oh, Miles, the whole world's conspiring against you." I never even said anything like that. And yet people like tell me that stuff, and like, I've heard this for like years from different people. And it's like all the same like nonsense. So why won't Canadians watch the documentary Overpriced, made by a fellow Canadian who worked really hard to create it? The information can solve a lot of problems in the world. Replace fossil fuels, replace nuclear energy. We can end hunger, literally. So people are ignoring solutions so we can actually solve problems. And there's a lot of people who support the meat industry and the oil industry and actually sabotage cannabis activism. I mean, I have asthma, and there's people that don't care. The Canadian economy doesn't have to be so rigged, and Canada doesn't have to be such a puppet state. Canadians could be free to grow cannabis. It's so easy to share the documentary Overpriced. I mean, clearly a lot of bullies don't want that documentary to be shared. So please help share the truth. So there's a lot of bullies in Canada trying to make sure that cannabis remains illegal. And people know that there's the government trying to get limited business legalized, and people are ignoring solutions so we can end prohibition. And it's so easy to share the documentary Overpriced. I mean, if that information was popular, then the government wouldn't ignore popular opinion, because government actually reacts to popular culture and what is popular in society. So if Canadians cared to share the documentary Overpriced, or other people in other countries cared, then Canadian society would have to come to face with reality, and the documentary would basically like expose a lot of corruption in Canada. And there's people that don't want that. There's people trying to maintain business as usual and like trying to act like everything's like normal and like, well, everything's fine. Yeah, it's a shame that people can't have a basic conversation, like a normal discussion, like about information without getting violent and aggressive. I mean, clearly I'm peaceful, and other people are trying to get violent and aggressive, like, because people are really twisted against, like, stuff I'm talking about. Yeah, it sucks that there's people that can't have a basic human conversation about information without getting, like, aggressive and violent with somebody and start bullying somebody because they don't agree. Please help share the documentary Overpriced. There are a bunch of bullies that don't want the cost of living to be cheaper so people could save money. There are a lot of people counterproductive to how cannabis could be cheap and we can replace fossil fuels. There's people actually trying to suppress discussion. Please help share the truth. Bullies really don't want me to be free to grow cannabis plants, and people give the meat industry an advantage. That's pathetic how people are against individuals growing cannabis. I mean, that's really, like, rude. That's not what a gentleman or, like, a lady does. Like, that's what, like, a disgusting, like, lowlife does. So, while I'm trying to share the truth how everybody could be free to grow cannabis, there's people in Canada trying to make sure the truth gets ignored and suppress discussion about the documentary Overpriced. Why is it there's so few people that actually, like, take part in discussing the information I'm talking about? How hemp can replace fossil fuels and the documentary Overpriced? There's so few people that actually engage in discussion, and a lot of people are counterproductive to how the cost of energy could be cheaper. It's hard work making videos on YouTube every day and working in a wood shop. And it's even harder when people are trying to sabotage my life. So on the online dating website POF, I'm not getting responses from girls about a relationship. and it's been going on for a long time, and bullies get lots of responses. People who eat meat get lots of responses, and I don't. I've been single for way too many years, so clearly there's a huge problem with people, like, not being educated and knowing about information that's in the documentary Overpriced that I made. So people could do, like, everybody a big favor by learning, doing research, and, like, not getting violent and aggressive with people. So Canadian society suppresses freedom of speech, especially at the workplace, and that, like, affects, like, off of work too, because people off of work don't want to talk about politics and why the cost of living is so expensive and how we can have cheaper energy so people can save money. Yeah, who wants to talk about that, right? Well, it's a good thing I didn't have to, like, deal with anybody, like, who, like, actually, like, hurt me